Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Shivan Chandna. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest.
And I'm Hem Kaursara, and on the show today, Pakistan Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar has acknowledged Islamabad's support for terrorist group Lashkar-e-Toiba's Proxy, TRF. This is Pakistan Bails Out TRF at UNSC. We'll of course bring you all the details on this.
Also, Pakistan's information minister claims that India intends to launch a military strike on Pakistan within the next 24 to 36 hours. This as Prime Minister Modi gives a free hand to the Indian armed forces to respond to the Pahalgam terror attack. We'll bring you all the details on that front. Let's start with the headlines.
We oppose the motion.
Pakistan Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar acknowledges Islamabad's support to Lashkar-e-Toiba's Proxy, TRF, as he confirms that the country got the terror group's name removed from the UNSC statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack.
Sources say Prime Minister Modi has granted the Indian Armed Forces complete operational freedom to respond to the Pahalgam attack during a high-level meeting at his residence in New Delhi.
India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours.
Pakistan's Minister for Information and Broadcasting, citing credible intelligence, claims India intends to launch a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours.
India's coming along great. I think we'll have a deal with India. The Prime Minister, as you know, was here 3 weeks ago, and they want to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
US President Donald Trump says tariff negotiations with India are coming along great, expresses hope that the countries will strike a deal soon.
If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
US warns it will walk away from mediation efforts if Russia and Ukraine do not produce concrete proposal to end the war now.
Very soon, we will replace the retiring A-10 Warthogs with 21 brand new F-15EX Eagle II fighter jets, the best in the world, fresh off the line.
Trump announces new fighter jet mission for Air National Guard base in Michigan, allaying fears that the base could close.
In 100 days, I've taken more than 1,000 executive actions, and I could recite our accomplishments all night long. And we will make America great again. I love you.
Trump rallies in Michigan, hails what he calls the most successful 100 days of any administration in the history of the US, lists achievements.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal Party wins the federal election, capping a stunning turnaround in fortunes fueled by US President Donald Trump's annexation threats and the trade war.
Amazon denies a report that it planned to show the cost of US tariffs on its products after facing backlash from the White House. The e-commerce giant clarified that the idea was never approved and would not be implemented.
Paris Saint-Germain take a big step towards reaching the Champions League final. Ousmane Dembele's early goal seals a 1-0 win at Arsenal in a tense first leg of the semi-final.
Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has acknowledged Islamabad's support to terrorist group Lashkar-e-Toiba's Proxy TRF.
This as he confirms that the country got the terror group's name removed from the UNSC statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack. The Pakistani minister displayed the deep association and concerns Islamabad shares with the terror outfit responsible for killing 26 civilians in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam.
Ishaq Dar admitted in the Pakistan Senate that the Pakistan government coerced the US into dropping the mentions of TRF, the Resistance Front, and Pahalgam from the UN Security Council statement condemning the incident.
We oppose the mention of TRF at the UNSC statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack. We refused to budge for 2.5 days. I got calls from global capitals, but I said that Pakistan will not accept it. You have to mention Jammu and Kashmir and delete the reference to TRF, and Pakistan's stance prevailed.
Pakistan will not accept.
While the Pakistani foreign minister flaunted Islamabad's association with the TRF, it showed the complicity of Pakistani lawmakers who applauded Dar's advocacy in the Senate.
Interestingly, within hours of that UNSC statement on Friday, TRF had retracted its earlier claim of taking responsibility for the Pahalgam attack, calling it an unauthorized message which was caused by a cyber intrusion. Now, almost simultaneously, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Saturday advocated for a neutral probe into the terrorist attack in Pahalgam.
Furthermore, Pakistan's Minister for Information has claimed that Islamabad has credible intelligence that India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours.
Pakistan has credible intelligence that India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours.
Earlier, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif had claimed that a military incursion by India was imminent in the next 3 to 4 days. Now, that statement came a few days ago. However, later he said his statement was misinterpreted.
The latest statement from the Pakistan Information Minister comes after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reportedly authorized his country's armed forces to respond to the April 22nd attack in Pahalgam. According to the sources, Prime Minister Modi gave the military chiefs complete operational freedom to decide on the mode, targets and the timing of our response to the terror attack.
Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres spoke separately with Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and expressed his deep concern at the rising tensions between India and Pakistan.
The Secretary General reiterated his strong condemnation of the April 22nd terrorist attack that took place in Jammu and Kashmir. The Secretary General noted the importance of pursuing justice and accountability for these attacks through lawful means. The Secretary General also expressed his deep concern at the rising tensions between India and Pakistan, and he also underscored the need to avoid a confrontation that could result in tragic consequences.
Now, the US State Department said Secretary of State Marco Rubio will urge his Indian and Pakistani counterparts to not escalate as tensions soar between the two countries.
Regarding the Kashmir situation, India and Pakistan, that he said we are reaching out to both parties and telling, of course, them to not escalate the situation. The Secretary expects to speak with the foreign ministers of Pakistan and India as early as today or tomorrow. He is encouraging other national leaders, other foreign ministers, to also reach out to the countries on this issue.
Now, $60 million Navy fighter jet fell from the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier.
And this happened as the aircraft carrier veered off at sea to avoid fire from the Houthis. And this comes as the Yemeni-based Houthi rebels continue to hit back at American forces despite relentless attacks by the United States. Our next story takes a close look at the cost of war and the rising fatalities in Yemen.
Under the cover of night, US fighter jets roar off the decks of aircraft carriers. Laden with missiles destined for Yemen. American fighter jets have been pounding Houthi targets. Missiles from US aircraft carriers have been targeting Yemen. Since March 15th, over 800 Houthi targets have been struck, yet the Iran-backed rebels remain undeterred. The Iran-backed fighters continue to down US drones and launch ballistic missiles towards Israel, showcasing a resilience that questions the efficacy of America's military strategy. The finance toll is staggering. 7 MQ-9 Reaper drones, each valued at $30 million, have been lost near Yemen since mid-March. Now an Fa-18E Super Hornet, worth approximately $60 million, lost in the Red Sea during a towing mishap aboard the USS Harry S. Truman. The exact details of the turn the Truman made to avoid the Houthi fire have not been released. This incident marks the second Super Hornet loss for the Truman strike group, following a friendly fire incident in December. In February, the Truman collided with a merchant ship near Egypt. No injuries were reported. US Navy carriers are the world's largest warships at nearly 1,100 feet long. They have a displacement of almost 100,000 tons. Beyond the monetary costs, the human toll is rising. A US missile strike in Sada reportedly killed at least 68 African migrants and injured dozens more, drawing international condemnation.
Yemen's Houthi rebels have alleged that a U.S. airstrike has hit a prison in Yemen, killing at least 68 people there. This prison was housing African migrants, and Ethiopians and others from East Africa long have used Yemen as a route to get into Saudi Arabia for work.
Despite claims of targeting Houthi infrastructure, civilian casualties have mounted, fueling criticism of the US campaign's precision and objectives. The Houthis, far from being subdued, have intensified their operations. They've launched ballistic missiles at Israel.
In response to this aggression and its crimes against civilians, the Yemeni armed forces targeted the American aircraft carrier Truman and its accompanying warships, engaging them in a joint operation carried out by the naval forces, the drone air force, and the missile force. The operation involved several cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones over the past hours.
Despite the relentless air campaign, the Houthis are still a fighting force, downing drones, launching missiles, and surviving the world's most advanced military onslaught. The Red Sea chaos has exposed the limits of American might and the staggering price of war with no end in sight. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Now, Israel continues its military offensive in Gaza, with the Al-Mawasi displacement camp in Khan Yunis becoming its latest target.
A video of the Israeli strike showed tents in the camp illuminated by a glow of strike. The exact number of civilian casualties is not known so far, and the attack is the latest in a series of Israeli strikes targeting camps sheltering displaced people in Gaza.
In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to achieve victory in the Gaza war in an event marking Memorial Day. Netanyahu said that he would continue to pursue victory against Hamas and the return of all hostages.
Since the Simchat Torah attack, the October 7th massacre, the IDF and security forces have been revealed in all their glory. They are attacking those who seek our souls on all fronts. They are fighting like lions to achieve victory. They are giving up their lives to create the conditions for the return of our precious hostages, who are constantly before our eyes. Bringing them home is a sacred mission, one we will not relent from.
A day after Ronan Bar announced his decision to step down as the head of the domestic intelligence service Shin Bet, the Netanyahu government cancelled its decision to fire Bar and sought to annul petitions pending in the court. The Shin Bet chief had revealed in the court hearings that Netanyahu demanded personal loyalty from him and wanted him to spy on Israeli protesters. Bar's revelations had set off massive protests against Netanyahu in Israel.
Meanwhile, the UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has called on countries to halt a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and condemned Israel's continued strikes on civilian shelters and said that the UN Rights Office had recorded 259 attacks on residential buildings and 99 on tents of internally displaced people.
French authorities accused Russia's most high-profile hacking group of orchestrating cyber attacks on President Emmanuel Macron's 2017 election campaign.
Now, identifying the notorious cyber espionage group APT28, also known as Fancy Bear, the attack, widely known as the Macron leaks, saw thousands of internal campaign emails and documents released just days before the final vote.
French authorities now say the operation was coordinated by Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU, the same unit responsible for major cyber attacks on the US Democratic Party in 2016 and the German Bundestag back in 2015. Now, France's foreign and cybersecurity agencies revealed that the group has continued to target French institutions and industries since 2021, including finance, aerospace, and several government ministries, and is also actively involved in undermining Ukraine's digital infrastructure.
French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot posted a stark warning online, calling it a silent war waged by Moscow. The accusations come amid rising tensions between Paris and the Kremlin as President Macron steps up pressure on Vladimir Putin over the war in Ukraine.
In recent weeks, President Macron has escalated his rhetoric against Vladimir Putin, seeking to increase pressure ahead of any possible ceasefire talks between Russia and the United States.
Last week, during a fiery exchange with reporters in Paris, Macron openly accused Putin of lying about his intentions to end the war in Ukraine.
And it's not the first time. Macron previously warned US President Donald Trump that Putin was playing games at the end of an international summit in the French capital.
President Trump, do you have a message?
Now, the United States has congratulated Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on his victory in the federal elections.
Carney-led Liberal Party has secured a new term in power after a campaign largely banking on rejecting threats from President Donald Trump. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce has said that the United States extends its congratulations to Prime Minister Mark Carney and his party on their win in Canada's recent federal elections.
The United States extends its congratulations to Prime Minister Mark Carney and his party on their win in Canada's recent federal elections. The U.S.-Canada relationship remains one of the most extensive in the world. We look forward to working with Prime Minister Carney's government, particularly on key issues such as trade fairness, combating illegal immigration, halting the flow of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs, and countering the Chinese Communist Party influence in our hemisphere.
Now, Ottawa has also said that Trump congratulated Carney, adding the leaders agreed to meet in person in the near term and work together as independent, sovereign nations. US President Donald Trump's tariffs and threats of annexing Canada stood as the central issue in the elections. The Liberal Party clinched a new term in power after Carney convincingly convinced the voters that his experience managing economic crises prepared him to confront US President Donald Trump. Trump's involvement not only infuriated many Canadians, but also put opposition candidate Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party on the back foot.
After the win, the newly elected Prime Minister said his country should never forget the lessons of the United States' betrayal. Carney told cheering supporters in Ottawa that they will win this trade war, but he warned of challenging days ahead brought on by Trump's tariffs and annexation threats. The highest members of the clergy are ready to appoint the successor to Pope Francis.
This will be, of course, in a secret ballot procedure. How is the Pope selected and why is the race to become the sovereign of Vatican highly unpredictable? Our next report explores.
Catholic cardinals are set to elect Pope Francis's successor at a grand conclave. The conclave could have opened as early as May 5th, but the cardinals gave themselves 2 more days to speak in more informal sessions that include cardinals over age 80. The College of Cardinals that will elect a new pope includes members from far-flung corners of the globe whom Francis named over his 12-year papacy. The race to become the next pope is laced with uncertainty, mainly because Pope chose 80% of these cardinals with varying backgrounds and different political ideologies, with some being conservatives and the others being liberal.
We talked about it with the family when we walked here to the Vatican, and we hope it will be a pope from Asia or Africa. Catholicism is growing over there, and we believe it can be a support for the people over there when there will be an African or an Asian pope.
135 cardinals will secretly vote to decide on the next head of the 1.4 billion member church. As a first step, Vatican has closed the Sistine Chapel, where the voting will take place. A 2/3 majority is traditionally required to elect a new pope, and voting continues until this threshold is met. Randomly selected cardinals oversee the votes, cast via secret ballots. After each round, the ballots are burned with chemicals producing either black or white smoke, signaling to the world the outcome. Black smoke represents that no decision has been made, while white smoke means a new pope has been elected. Once the pope is chosen, a top cardinal announces his name from St. Peter's Basilica. What's interesting is that this process can take hours or even days.
I believe this will be a fairly quick conclave, in the sense that the cardinals, I think and hope, will agree fairly quickly on the name of the future pope. This would also be a beautiful sign of harmony and unity.
The longest modern conclaves in 1903 and 1922 each stretched to 5 days. While the duration of this secret voting remains a mystery, what's certain is the appointment of 266th successor of the Roman Catholic Church.
All right, viewers, time now for a quick break. This is World DNA. We will be back. When we come back on the other side, US has renewed its threats, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio reiterating that the country would give up on mediation unless Russia and Ukraine put forward concrete proposals.
Vietnam is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon. Streets in Ho Chi Minh City are soaked in the spirit of patriotism. We'll get you all the details on the other side.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Unlocking the future of finance.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me
as we yield the power of tokenization.
Discover the future of
ownership, where I decode, demystify tokenization for you.
Empowering the tokenized revolution.
Get ready to dive for an in-depth look at tokenization.
Busting the myths around tokenization.
Catch me on
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet only on WION.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Africans worldwide unite in solidarity with Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, following an assassination attempt and US accusations against him. Traoré's defiance of neo-colonialism and fight for African sovereignty have sparked protests across the continent, demanding leaders to prioritize on their people and reject foreign influence. Following the burial of late Pope Francis, many Catholics are wondering if the Church could soon elect its first black pope. With Africa home to 1 in 5 Catholics, the idea of a pope from the continent is gaining ground. And in Congo, female bonobos team up against males to secure higher positions in their social hierarchy. It's one of the rare times such a strategy has allowed females to come out on top in the animal kingdom. Watch Wild of Africa at these times on WION. Wild is One.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's get started with the headlines first.
Pakistan violates ceasefire across the line of control for the 6th consecutive night, opens fire in Ramgarh and Pargwal areas of Jammu. India retaliates effectively.
Pakistan Foreign Minister Ishaq acknowledges Islamabad's support to Lashkar-e-Toiba's Proxy TRF as he confirms that the country got the terror group's name removed from the UNSC statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack.
Sources say Prime Minister Modi has granted the Indian Armed Forces complete operational freedom to respond for the Pahalgam terror attack during a high-level meeting at his residence in New Delhi.
If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
US warns it will walk away from mediation if Russia and Ukraine do not produce concrete proposal to end the war now.
Very soon we will replace the retiring A-10 Warthogs with 21 brand new F-15EX Eagle II fighter jets, the best in the world, fresh off the line.
Trump announces new fighter jet mission for Air National Guard base in Michigan, allaying fears that the base could close.
In 100 days, I've taken more than 1,000 executive actions, and I could recite our accomplishments all night long. And we will make America great again. I love you.
Trump rallies in Michigan, hails what he calls the most successful 100 days of any administration in the history of US, lists all his achievements.
The US and India are nearing a landmark trade agreement as Treasury Secretary Besant says the two nations are very close to a deal that could reshape economic ties under President Trump.
World number one Arina Sabalenka reaches Madrid Open quarterfinals for the fourth time in the last 5 years. The two-time champion beats Peyton Stern to book a spot in the last 8.
Juego 6 partidos, Sabalenka. 2-0, 6-2, 6-4, 6-2, 6-4.
In the sixth straight night of ceasefire violation along the line of control, Pakistan Army Post initiated unprovoked small arms fire opposite Nowshera, Sundarbani and Akhnur sectors.
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, now apart from that, Pakistani troops also provoked the Indian Army by small arms firing from their posts across the line of control in Baramulla and Kupwara districts, as well as across the international border in Pargwal sector. The Indian Army troops responded swiftly and proportionately. Once again, we repeat, viewers, this is the sixth straight night of ceasefire violations by the Pakistani side across the line of control.
This is the news that's just coming in that Pakistan Army Post initiated unprovoked small arms fire opposite the Nowshera, Sundarbani and Akhnur sectors in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. They also provoked Indian Army by small arms firing from their posts across the line of control in Baramulla and Kupwara districts.
All right, for more on this, we are now being joined live by WION special correspondent Idris Lone joining us over the phone line. Idris, a distraction measure, a deterrence tool, a deterrence tactic. Give us more on what these firings, which seem to be a daily occurrence now, seeming to mean.
Well, absolutely, Shivan. We've seen this is the sixth night when the Pakistani army has violated ceasefire, not only on the line of control, but international border today as well. The Indian Army as well as the border security forces have retaliated. These ceasefire violations are happening daily, especially after the Pahalgam attack. We've seen there were attempts of infiltration bids, especially in the northern part of Kashmir, in Baramulla district, where security forces even gunned down 2 terrorists who were trying to infiltrate into the territory. But what we are seeing is now a pattern from the Pakistani army that every night, this is the 6th night today, and they the ceasefire was violated at 6 places, which included Nowshera, Sundarbani, Aknoor, as well as in North Kashmir, in Kupwara and Baramulla district. We also saw the ceasefire violation taking place on the international border, where the Border Security Force, BSF, is posted at Pargawal sector. They also retaliated and responded appropriately, but this has become a kind of a daily affair for the Pakistani army at the moment. It seems that they are showing that they're alert at every nook and corner, and also could be a factor that they could be wanting to push in terrorists from across the border into Kashmir territory. As we see not only in Jammu division but also in the Kashmir division, where the passes have opened, snow has melted, these ceasefire violations are happening in those areas as well. So it could be a cover for the terrorist groups to basically push them into the Kashmir territory, as they've been doing every year during the spring as well as in the autumn. We've seen in summers their main passes are always on alert by security forces. That's why in northern Kashmir, basically in the last 3 to 4 years, have seen least infiltration attempts as well as bids from across the border, because it was sealed completely. But what we are seeing now, because of these ceasefire violations, which also have happened after a long time in the northern part of Kashmir, means also not only are they showing that they're alert and engaging in with the Indian army, there also a possibility that they could be giving cover to terrorists to basically infiltrate into Kashmir.
No, that is definitely a possibility, which of course the Indian armed forces are well aware of, and the Indian army is carrying out effective counters to those ceasefire violations. That was Itri Sloan getting us the latest from Srinagar.
Now, the United States has renewed its threats, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio reiterating that the country would give up on mediation efforts unless Russia and Ukraine put forward concrete proposals.
US President has vowed to end the war in his first 24 hours back in the White House. This was what he said all through his election campaign. Now, with 100 days gone, his Secretary of State has suggested that the administration could soon turn their attention to other issues.
We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. How we proceed from here is a decision that belongs now to the President. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
Russian President Vladimir Putin recently proposed a 3-day ceasefire around Moscow's commemorations next week for the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. But Putin has rebuffed a Ukrainian-backed US call for a 30-day ceasefire.
Clearly, it's about what they've been working toward is a ceasefire, a complete, full, durable ceasefire, right? Not a 3-day moment so you can celebrate something else. A complete, durable ceasefire and an end to the conflict.
And for more details on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from the UN headquarters. Listen in.
At Tuesday's UN Security Council meeting on Ukraine, chaired by France's foreign minister, the Council heard stark updates on both the humanitarian crisis and political stalemate. UN briefers confirmed over 43,000 civilian casualties since the war began and warned of rising displacement as fighting intensifies. Now, the meeting came amid high-stake U.S. diplomacy brokering a ceasefire, or at least hoping to, before President Trump's 100-day deadline. While Washington pitched a somewhat controversial deal to some involving security guarantees and phased sanctions relief, Ukraine and its European allies have pushed back hard, especially over the recognition of Crimea as being Russian. Russia, meanwhile, offered limited ceasefire but has continued civilian strikes in Ukraine. Most council members condemned Russia's aggression and called for an immediate, unconditional ceasefire respecting Ukraine's territorial integrity, as they have in the past. Now, it's important to note that tensions also flared over reports of North Korean troops deployment in Russia. With major gaps unresolved, the path to peace remains uncertain, and President Trump has hinted that U.S. mediation efforts may soon end if progress is stalled. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Liberation, unification, and an end of a 19-year-long civil war. 50 years have passed since the war ended in Vietnam, but the memories of the war are entrenched in the country's collective memory.
Now, 50 years ago today, North Vietnamese forces entered the city of Saigon, marking a victory for communist leader Ho Chi Minh. Saigon became the Ho Chi Minh City on the 30th April 1975. 5 decades later, streets in Ho Chi Minh City are soaked in the spirit of patriotism. Flags and posters have taken over the city's landscape.
People recall the end of the war and the beginning of a new era.
All these things, banners, the flags and flowers, everything on the streets. People are feeling joyful because this is the celebration of a great victory. I am very happy to live in the days of peace and independence.
The United States entered Vietnam War to stop the spread of communism in Asia. It provided massive military, economic and political support to South Vietnam against the communist North. Over 500,000 American troops were deployed at the war's peak. The conflict became America's longest war until it withdrew in 1973. The war in Vietnam claimed the lives of nearly 60,000 Americans, many of them young soldiers drafted by their government. Some 3 million Vietnamese died on both sides of what is known in Vietnam as the American War.
50 years ago, the decades-long Vietnam War ended on April 30th. In the years that followed, Vietnam repaired itself. Now armed with lessons from the past, it grew. Its economy is now an exporting powerhouse. It mended its relationship with its former foe, the US, which is now a comprehensive strategic partner, the highest diplomatic status that it gives to any country. But today, as millions pour into Ho Chi Minh City, it has new economic and geopolitical realities that it has to reckon with. The country is caught in the crosshairs of Donald Trump's tariff plans, and at the same time, it has to deal with the new reality of US aid funding being slashed. These funds were crucial for war legacy programs, which has been the bedrock of US and Vietnam friendship.
Now, e-commerce giant Amazon has denied reports that it would display the impact of tariffs next to the price of products on its e-commerce site.
Now, the statement comes amid reports that the e-commerce giant is mulling to detail the price impact of Trump's trade tariffs to its customers.
Now, Amazon has responded to the White House statement, terming it as a hostile and political act if it went ahead with this move. In an official statement by Amazon, the company says the suggestion was never approved and it's not going to happen. However, Amazon has acknowledged that the team that runs its ultra-low-cost Amazon Hall store did present the idea to detail the price impact of Trump's trade tariffs to its customers. Before Amazon's response, the White House said that the e-commerce company's move was not a surprise.
The White House secretary cited a 2021 report by Reuters accusing Amazon of partnering with a Chinese propaganda arm earlier.
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm.
While there's confusion regarding Donald Trump's claim of trade talks with China, talks with India seem to be progressing rapidly.
Now, Trump told reporters the negotiations are going great and expressed confidence that a deal will be reached soon.
It's coming along great. I think we'll have a deal with India. The Prime Minister, as you know, was here 3 weeks ago, and they want to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
This follows his decision to impose a 26% reciprocal tariff on Indian goods, which has now been paused for 90 days to facilitate discussions. Now, the two countries have committed to concluding the first phase of the deal by fall 2025 with a long-term target of expanding bilateral trade to $500 billion by the year 2030.
Meanwhile, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said in a televised interview that a trade agreement has already been finalized on the American side and awaits approval, but did not mention the country on the other side. The pause in tariffs is allowing both sides to address long-standing issues, including market access, regulatory barriers, and product-specific tariffs.
I think that we are very close on India, and in India, just a little inside baseball, India, in a funny way, is easier to negotiate with than many other countries because they have very high tariffs and lots of tariffs. So it's much easier to confront the direct tariffs when, as we go through these unfair trade deals that have been put in over decades, that the non-tariff trade barriers can be much more insidious and also harder to detect.
According to India's Ministry of Commerce, bilateral teams met in Washington from March 23rd to 25th, following earlier discussions in New Delhi. Talks covered both tariff and non-tariff barriers, with sectoral working groups engaging virtually. In-person technical talks are scheduled for late May.
Continues uninterrupted.
While India has made concessions in sectors like energy and defense, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that any final agreement must protect domestic interests. The focus now is on securing early wins while aligning with the broader goal of economic and supply chain integration. Visa chaos has international students second-guessing their American dream.
And of course, rival countries are ready to roll out the red carpet here. Will the US lose its edge in the global education race? Take a look at this next report.
After a sudden visa status shake-up, thousands of international students found their legal footing restored, but not without leaving cracks in their confidence. The Department of Homeland Security's abrupt policy shift caused confusion just as college decision deadlines loomed. While schools quickly welcomed the reversal, many international applicants are now questioning whether the US is still the best bet for higher education. College advisors say more families are hedging their bets, eyeing Canada and the UK as safer harbors. For students investing years and tens of thousands of dollars, stability is key. And recent US policy missteps have some wondering if the American dream might come with too many strings attached. The stakes are high for universities. International students bring more than diverse perspectives to campus. They contribute serious tuition dollars. In the 2023-24 academic year, international enrollment pumped nearly $44 billion into the US economy. A sharp drop could leave some institutions scrambling to balance their books. Despite the noise, the US still holds strong appeal, especially among families targeting the Ivy League and other top-tier universities. Global demand for elite American degrees remains resilient, but experts warn that goodwill can erode if policy uncertainty becomes the norm. In a global talent race, countries offering smoother paths to education and immigration are gaining ground. Experts say if the US wants to keep leading the pack, it needs to offer more runway and fewer last-minute detours. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
It was the first Champions League semi-final at the Emirates in 16 years, one of the biggest nights in Arsenal's history.
But it did not end the way Gunners fans had hoped. French champions PSG sealed a 1-0 win in a tense first leg, leaving Mikel Arteta's side with a mountain to climb in Paris.
Arsenal came into the match riding high after a 5-1 aggregate win over holders Real Madrid, but the hosts knew this was a different challenge. Declan Rice warned his teammates before the kickoff, "If we don't have the ball, we die." His words proved prophetic. PSG struck just 4 minutes in. Ousmane Dembele slotted past David Raya at the end of the slick 26-pass move. The visitors dominated early, holding 71.6% possession in the first 26 minutes, but Arsenal began to grow into the game and nearly equalized before halftime. Miles Lewis slipped in Gabriel Martinelli, but PSG goalkeeper was quick to deny him. 2 minutes into the second half, Arsenal thought they were levelled with when